Hi everyone, welcome back to chapter 14, focused on focus groups. We're moving on to our next pronunciation tip, which we already kind of covered when we did our warm-up and introduction at the beginning of the chapter, and that's thought groups and pausing. And in writing, and you've probably already begun looking at this in your writing classes, in your grammar classes, we use commas and other punctuation to show where thought groups end. In writing, in the written form of English, we use commas and other forms of punctuation to show where one thought group ends and another thought group begins. For example, your office, which is on the 4th floor, has a window. Your office, one thought group, which is on the 4th floor, one thought group, has a window, another thought group. So how do we show where thought groups end in speaking? Well, pauses, right? Speakers often pause briefly at the end of a thought group. Now, the examples that I'm giving you, I'm pausing maybe a little bit longer. You don't want to pause too long, but I think a second, right? 1/1000. Just 1 second is plenty to pause between different thought groups. So that's one tip to distinguish. How do we show where thought groups end in speaking? Pauses, thought groups, and pausing. And where do we pause? Well, anytime you have a comma, for sure. Anytime you have a period, for sure. A semicolon would also indicate a pause. And then we also talked about earlier conjunctions, right? And, but, or, because. Those are also going to be indications that you should pause in speaking. Another way that we identify thought groups is with intonation. And we looked at that last chapter, rising intonation, right? When we ask yes or no questions. Are you okay? How are you doing? How are you doing actually wouldn't be a yes or no question, forgive me. That's a WH question, right? Where we have falling intonation at the very end. But intonation is also useful when we pronounce thought groups. To signal the end of a thought group, we use the rise and fall of our voice all together in one fluid motion. Take a listen here. I'm really sorry, but I have a flat tire, and I'm going to be late. I'm really sorry, but I have a flat tire, and I'm going to be late. So the voice jumps on the focus word and then falls slightly at the end of each thought group. You can see the thought groups are separated by commas here. And then the intonation really falls at the end of the sentence. And this is what we looked at when we talked about falling intonation with statements. If you remember that exercise, it said, tired? Yes. Hungry? No. Schoolwork or homework? Lots, right? When we make statements in English at the very end, the intonation falls even more at the very end. But very slightly, a rise and a fall when you come across those focus words in each thought group.